Love cannot survive on lies.
The first thing you need to know about my wife, Emily, is that she collects secrets like other people collect stamps. The second thing is that her brother Jake thinks my house is his personal ATM. The third thing? Well, that's where this whole mess started. I'm Kyle Masters, 39 years old, IT manager for a mid-sized company in Plano, Texas. I fix other people's problems for a living, which is ironic considering I couldn't see the train wreck happening in my own home. Emily and I have been married 12 years with 2 daughters who mean everything to me. Sophie, 10, and Jenna, 8. Smart kids, both of them. Smarter than their old man, apparently. It was a Tuesday morning in March when Jake showed up at our door, unshaven and reeking of desperation mixed with cheap cologne. Emily's younger brother had always been what my grandmother would have called a piece of work. At 32, he'd burned through more jobs than a McDonald's fryer burns through oil. His latest venture was something he called digital marketing consulting, which as far as I could tell involved posting motivational quotes on Instagram while living in our guest room. "Kyle, buddy!" Jake slapped my back as I opened the door, his smile too wide, too practiced. "Is Em around? I need to talk to you both about an incredible opportunity." Emily appeared behind me, already reaching for her purse. It was like watching a magician's assistant. She knew the trick before the audience even sat down. "What do you need, Jake?" I asked, though we both knew the answer. "It's not what I need. It's what I can offer you." Jake pushed past me into our living room, spreading himself across our couch like he owned it. "I'm about to close a massive deal with this tech startup in Austin. They need someone with your IT background to consult on their security infrastructure. We're talking 6 figures, Kyle. Easy money." I'd heard variations of this speech before. The details changed. Sometimes it was cryptocurrency. Sometimes it was real estate. Once it was a revolutionary dog grooming app. But the ending was always the same. Jake needed money to make it happen. "How much?" Emily asked before I could respond. "Just $20,000 to get started. It's basically a loan. You'll have it back in 30 days plus interest." I laughed, but it came out bitter. "Jake, you still owe us $8,000 from your last opportunity. Remember the food truck business? The one that was going to revolutionize street tacos?" Jake's smile flickered. "That was different. This is guaranteed, Kyle. I've got contracts, investors lined up. This startup is the next big thing." "Show me the contracts," I said. "Well, they're not exactly signed yet, but..." "No." The word hung in the air like smoke. Emily's face went tight, the way it did when she was about to say something she'd regret. "Kyle," she said, her voice artificially sweet, "maybe we should hear him out. We've heard him out 12 times in the past 3 years. The answer is no." Jake stood up, his friendly mask slipping. "You know what your problem is, Kyle? You're small time. You're content with your little IT job and your little house and your little life. Some of us have bigger dreams. Some of us also pay our own rent. Screw you, man. I'm trying to help you here. This is a chance to set your family up for life, and you're too scared to take it." "I'm too smart to take it. There's a difference." Emily stepped between us. "Stop it, both of you. Kyle, Jake is family. Family helps family. Family doesn't keep coming back to the same well," I said, "especially when the well is running dry." That's when Jake played his ace card. He always had one. "Em, tell him about the call you got yesterday from the mortgage company." My blood went cold. "What call?" Emily's face flushed. "It's nothing, just a routine thing." "What call, Emily?" Jake grinned like a shark. "Seems like you folks are behind on your payments. 3 months behind, actually. Funny how Kyle, the IT genius, doesn't know his own wife has been juggling the bills." The room spun slightly. I sat down hard on the arm of our recliner. "Emily, is that true?" She couldn't meet my eyes. "It's complicated. I've been trying to handle it myself. I didn't want to worry you." "Handle it how? By borrowing money from your brother? By finding solutions. Jake's opportunity could solve everything." I looked at my wife. Really looked at her. The new highlights in her hair, the designer purse I didn't remember her buying, the expensive yoga classes she'd started taking 3 times a week. "How much do we owe?" $15,000, she whispered. "Jesus Christ, Emily, 15,000? How does someone get 15,000 behind on a mortgage without their husband knowing?" Jake leaned forward, sensing weakness. "See, this is exactly why you need my deal. 20,000 investment, and in 30 days, you'll have enough to catch up on the house and still come out ahead." or we'll be 35,000 in the hole instead of 15. Kyle, please. Emily's voice broke a little. I've been trying to fix this. I thought I could handle it myself, but it's gotten out of control. Jake's right. This could be the answer. I stood up and walked to the window. Our neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, was watering her garden, probably listening to every word through the thin walls. The girls would be home from school in 2 hours. Sophie had a science project due Friday. Jenna needed new soccer cleats. Normal problems, manageable problems. No, I said finally. We're not gambling our way out of debt. Then what's your brilliant solution? Jake asked. We'll figure it out. Without you? Jake's mask came off completely then. You know what, Kyle? You deserve whatever happens. You've got a good woman here trying to save your backside, and you're too proud and too stupid to let her get out. What? Get out of my house, now! Jake looked to Emily for support, but she was staring at the floor. This isn't over, Jake said, grabbing his jacket. When you lose this house, remember that I offered you a way out. After he left, Emily and I sat in silence for a long time. Finally, she spoke. I'm sorry, I should have told you about the mortgage. Yeah, you should have. What else haven't you told me? Nothing. I swear, Kyle, I just got behind, and it snowballed. The credit cards, the car payment, everything hit at once. What credit cards? Another silence. Longer this time. Emily, what credit cards? Just a couple. For emergencies. How much? Maybe 12,000, 13? I did the math in my head. Mortgage, credit cards, car payment. We were looking at close to 30,000 in debt I didn't know existed. How long have you been hiding this? I wasn't hiding it. I was trying to fix it. By borrowing money from Jake. By getting us deeper in debt. By finding opportunities. By thinking bigger than just your paycheck. There it was. The real problem. Not the debt, not Jake's schemes, but the fundamental disconnect between us. Emily saw my steady job, my careful budgeting, my risk-averse nature as limitations. I saw them as stability. My paycheck pays for this house, I said. My paycheck feeds our kids. My paycheck isn't the problem here. I know that. I'm not saying... You're saying exactly that. You think I'm small-time, just like Jake does. I think you're careful. Sometimes too careful. And you think the solution is to bet 20 grand on your brother's latest get-rich-quick scheme? I think the solution is to trust family. Family doesn't lie about mortgage payments, Emily. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I didn't lie, I just didn't tell you everything. That's the definition of lying. The girls came home then, backpacks hitting the floor with their usual chaos. Sophie wanted help with her science project. Jenna needed me to sign a permission slip for a field trip. Normal things, good things, things that mattered more than Jake's schemes or Emily's secrets. But as I helped Sophie with her project on solar energy, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was falling apart. The house we might lose. The marriage built on lies I was just discovering. The brother-in-law who saw me as an ATM with legs. That night, after the girls were asleep, Emily tried to approach the subject again. Kyle, I know you're angry, but we need to talk about solutions. We are not giving Jake $20,000. Then what? The mortgage company wants the full amount by Friday, or they start foreclosure proceedings. Friday? You said we had time to figure this out. I was hoping Jake's deal would come through. I stared at her. You were planning to give him the money without even talking to me about it? I was planning to save our house. With money we don't have, on a deal that doesn't exist, through a brother who's never kept a promise in his life. He's trying, Kyle. He's really trying this time. He's trying to separate us from 20 grand, just like he tried with the food truck and the cryptocurrency and the dog grooming app. This is different. How? How is it different? She couldn't answer that, which was answer enough. Over the next few days, I started digging into our finances. What I found made my stomach turn. Emily hadn't just hidden the mortgage problems. She'd been juggling our entire financial life like a street performer with flaming torches. Credit cards I'd never seen. A second mortgage I'd never signed. Loans against her car, against her jewelry, against anything she could leverage. The worst part wasn't the debt. The worst part was realizing that our friends knew. Our couple friends, the ones we had dinner with every month, the ones whose kids played with our kids, they all knew Emily was struggling financially. They knew, and they'd started distancing themselves from us. It started with canceled plans. Sorry, we can't make dinner this week. Something came up. Then it was declined invitations. We're not really doing anything for my birthday this year. Finally, it was the complete freeze out. No returned calls, no texts, no acknowledgement that we existed. I confronted Tom Morrison about it. Tom and I had been friends since college. Our wives were close. Our kids were in the same grade. What's going on, Tom? You've been dodging my calls for 2 weeks. We were standing in the parking lot of our kids' school. Tom looked uncomfortable, like he'd rather be anywhere else. Look, Kyle, it's nothing personal. Then what is it? It's just complicated right now. Complicated how? Tom sighed. Emily asked Lisa for money, a lot of money. She said it was for a business investment, something about helping Jake get started. Lisa felt bad saying no, but we can't afford to loan anyone 15 grand right now. My heart sank. She asked you for 15,000? She didn't tell you? No, she didn't tell me. Crap, Kyle, I'm sorry. I thought you knew. What exactly did she tell Lisa? That you guys had found this amazing investment opportunity, but you needed to act fast. She said Jake had found some tech startup that was looking for investors, and if you could get in on the ground floor, you'd make back 10 times your investment. The same story Jake had pitched to me, but with a crucial difference. Emily had been shopping it around to our friends behind my back. Did she ask anyone else? Tom looked even more uncomfortable. Kyle, maybe you should talk to Emily about this. Tom, did she ask anyone else? Yeah, she asked pretty much everyone in our group. Mike and Sarah, the Johnsons, even my brother-in-law. Nobody wanted to say yes, but nobody wanted to hurt her feelings either, so everyone just started avoiding the situation. Started avoiding us, you mean? I'm sorry, man. We didn't know how to handle it. I understood. Nobody wants to be someone's ATM, but nobody wants to be the bad guy who says no to a friend in need. The easiest solution was to just disappear. That night, I confronted Emily. You asked the Morrisons for money. It wasn't a question. She looked up from her laptop, and I could see the guilt written across her face. I was trying to help. You were trying to help by lying to our friends? By telling them I was on board with Jake's scheme when you knew I wasn't? I thought if I could just get the money together, I could prove to you that it would work. So you were going to take 15 grand from our friends, give it to your brother, and hope his imaginary deal would pay off? It's not imaginary, Kyle. Jake showed me the contracts. What contracts? He admitted to me that nothing was signed. Emily pulled out her phone and showed me a PDF. It looked official enough, letterhead, signatures, legal language. But I work in IT. I know how easy it is to fake a document. Emily, this could be made in Microsoft Word. Why would Jake lie to me? Because he needs $20,000 and he knows you're desperate enough to believe him. I'm not desperate. I'm proactive. You're desperate, and you're dragging our friends into it. Do you know that Tom and Lisa are avoiding us now? Do you know that nobody returns our calls anymore? They're not real friends if they won't help when we need it. They're not ATMs, Emily. They're people with their own problems and their own families to worry about. So I'm just supposed to let us lose our house? You're supposed to talk to your husband before you start shopping around to our friends for money to give to your brother for his fake business deals? The fight escalated from there. Voices raised, accusations flying, the girls asking from upstairs if everything was okay. It ended with Emily sleeping in the guest room and me lying awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how my marriage had become this dysfunctional mess. The next morning, Jake showed up again. This time he had backup. Emily's mother, Margaret. Margaret had never liked me. I was too practical for her taste, too focused on boring things like steady employment and financial responsibility. She'd always thought Emily had married beneath her potential. Kyle, Margaret said, settling herself on our couch like a judge taking the bench. Emily tells me you're being unreasonable about this investment opportunity. Emily tells me a lot of things that turn out not to be true. Don't be smart with me, young man. Jake has found a legitimate business opportunity, and you're letting your pride get in the way of your family's future. My pride isn't the problem here. The problem is that Jake's opportunities always require other people's money and never seem to pay off. Jake jumped in. This is different, Kyle. I've got documentation, contracts, everything you asked for. He handed me a folder thick with papers. Contracts, business plans, financial projections. It looked impressive until I started reading the details. The tech startup was 3 guys in Austin who wanted to create an app for optimizing personal energy flow through digital meditation. The contracts were letters of intent, not binding agreements. The financial projections assumed they'd capture 10% of the digital wellness market within 6 months. This is garbage, Jake. You don't understand the wellness industry. I understand math. You're projecting $1 million in revenue from an app that doesn't exist, targeting a market you can't define with no actual customers. Margaret sniffed. Not everything is about spreadsheets, Kyle. Sometimes you have to take risks to get ahead in life. Sometimes you have to be smart to avoid losing everything you've worked for. Is that what you call this? Margaret gestured around our living room. Working for something? Emily could have done so much better. There it was. The real issue. Not Jake's schemes or Emily's debt, but the fundamental belief that I wasn't good enough for their family. Maybe she could have, I said. But she didn't. She married me. And I've spent 12 years trying to build a stable life for her and our kids. Stable, Margaret repeated the word like it tasted bad. Stable doesn't pay for private school. Stable doesn't take family vacations to Europe. Stable doesn't prepare for the future. Stable keeps the lights on. Stable pays the mortgage. Or it would, if someone hadn't been hiding $15,000 in debt. Emily came downstairs then, looking like she hadn't slept any better than I had. Are we really doing this again? She asked. Your mother seems to think I'm the problem here. You are the problem, Margaret said. Jake is offering you a chance to turn your life around, and you're too stubborn to take it. I'm too smart to take it. Smart? Jake laughed. Smart is recognizing opportunity. Smart is understanding that the economy is changing, that the old ways of doing things don't work anymore. You can't just punch a time clock for 40 years and expect to retire comfortably. You can't just chase get-rich-quick schemes and expect to build wealth either. This isn't get-rich-quick. This is strategic investment in emerging markets. This is gambling with money we don't have. The argument continued for another hour, Margaret lecturing me about vision and ambition, Jake showing me more fake documents and projections, Emily sitting quietly, letting her family gang up on her husband. Finally, I'd had enough. Everyone out. Kyle, Emily started. Everyone out, now. You can't kick out my mother. Watch me. Margaret stood up, drawing herself to her full height. I see what kind of man you really are, Kyle Masters, the kind who puts his own fear ahead of his family's needs. I'm the kind who doesn't gamble with his children's future. You're the kind who settles for mediocrity and calls it wisdom. After they left, Emily and I had our worst fight yet. She accused me of humiliating her in front of her family. I accused her of choosing them over our marriage. She said I was controlling and paranoid. I said she was naive and irresponsible. It ended with Emily packing a bag. Where are you going? To my mother's. I need time to think. What about the girls? They can stay with you. Maybe some time alone will help you see reason. She left that afternoon, and I was alone with Sophie and Jenna, trying to explain why Mommy wasn't coming home for dinner, without explaining that Mommy had lied about our finances and was planning to give $20,000 to Uncle Jake for his imaginary business. The girls handled it better than I expected. Kids are resilient. They adapted to cereal for dinner and Dad doing bedtime stories instead of Mom. But I could see the worry in their eyes, the questions they were too afraid to ask. Meanwhile, our social isolation was complete. The Morrisons stopped returning my calls entirely. Mike and Sarah crossed the street when they saw me at the grocery store. The Johnsons didn't invite us to their annual barbecue. We'd become social pariahs, the desperate couple who asked for money. I started eating lunch alone at work, avoiding the break room, where people might ask about Emily or make awkward small talk about our situation. I stopped going to the gym because Tom worked out there. I even switched grocery stores to avoid running into our former friends. The loneliness was crushing, but it also gave me clarity. I started seeing our situation from the outside, understanding how we'd gotten here and what needed to change. Emily had been living beyond our means for years, using credit to maintain a lifestyle my salary couldn't support. She'd hidden the debt because she was ashamed, then compounded the problem by chasing unrealistic solutions. Jake was a predator who fed on his sister's desperation and my supposed weakness. Margaret was an enabler who encouraged Emily's worst impulses. And our friends, they weren't really friends at all. They were fair-weather companions who disappeared the moment things got complicated. Emily came back after a week, but the distance between us had grown into a chasm. We were polite to each other for the girls' sake, but the trust was gone. She still believed Jake's deal was our salvation. I still believed Jake was a con artist. The breaking point came on a Friday evening. I was helping Jenna with her math homework when Jake showed up with news. Kyle, buddy, I've got great news. The Austin deal fell through, but I found something even better. Of course you have. No, seriously, this is the real deal. A buddy of mine in Dallas is flipping houses and he needs investors. We put in 25 grand and in 6 months we'll have 40 back. Guaranteed. 25 now? Yesterday it was 20. The opportunity got bigger. More risk, more reward. Emily was nodding along like Jake was making perfect sense. Kyle, this is exactly what we need. Real estate is always a safe investment. House flipping isn't real estate investment, Emily. It's speculation, and it's not safe. My buddy Tommy has flipped 12 houses in the past 2 years, Jake continued. Every single one was profitable. Where's Tommy getting the houses? Foreclosures mostly. Bank auctions. He's got connections. And he needs our money because he's expanding. He could flip twice as many houses with more capital. I looked at Emily. She was buying every word. No, I said. Kyle, please, Emily said. Just listen to what Jake is proposing. I've heard what Jake is proposing. It's the same thing he always proposes. Give him money and trust that everything will work out. This is different. How? How is it different from the tech startup or the food truck or any of the other schemes? Jake's friendly mask slipped again. You know what your problem is, Kyle. You're a quitter. You gave up on yourself years ago, and now you want everyone else to give up too. I didn't give up. I grew up. There's a difference. Grew up? You're 39 years old, making 50 grand a year, living in a house you can't afford, married to a woman who deserves better. If that's growing up, I'll stay young. That's when I snapped. Get out. Kyle, Emily started. No, I'm done. I'm done with Jake's schemes. I'm done with your mother's lectures, and I'm done pretending that any of this is normal. Jake stood up. Fine. But when you're living in an apartment and Emily's working 2 jobs to make ends meet, remember that I tried to help. When you're in jail for fraud, remember that I tried to warn you. Jake's face went red. You calling me a criminal? I'm calling you a con artist. There's a difference, but not much of one. That's when Jake made his mistake. He stepped toward me, hands clenched, trying to intimidate me in my own living room. You want to say that again? I'm not a big guy, but I'm not small either. And I was done being pushed around. You're a con artist, Jake. You prey on desperate people, including your own sister. You've never had a real job, never kept a promise, and never told the truth when a lie would serve you better. Jake swung at me. I saw it coming and stepped back, letting his momentum carry him into our coffee table. He went down hard, scattering magazines and knocking over Emily's wine glass. Emily screamed. The girls came running downstairs. Jake was on the floor, holding his knee and cursing. You're crazy, man. You're absolutely crazy. I'm tired. There's a difference. Emily helped Jake to his feet. Kyle, what is wrong with you? What's wrong with me? Your brother just took a swing at me in my own house, and you're asking what's wrong with me. He's hurt. He's embarrassed, and he should be. Jake limped toward the door, Emily supporting him. This isn't over, Kyle. Yeah, it is. After they left, I sat down with Sophie and Jenna and had the conversation I'd been dreading. Girls, Daddy and Mommy are having some problems right now. Are you getting divorced? Sophie asked, 10 years old and already too smart for her own good. I don't know, sweetheart. I hope not. But things might change for a while. Is it because of Uncle Jake? Jenna asked. It's because of a lot of things. But I want you both to know that whatever happens between Mommy and Daddy, we both love you very much. That will never change. They hugged me then, and I held them tight, wondering how I was going to protect them from the mess their mother and I had created. Emily came back that night, but she was different, colder, more distant. Jake's knee is sprained, she said. I'm sorry he got hurt. I'm not sorry I defended myself. He wasn't going to hurt you. He took a swing at me, Emily, in front of our children, because you called him a criminal, because he is one. We stared at each other across our kitchen, 12 years of marriage reduced to this moment of mutual incomprehension. I can't do this anymore, Emily said finally. Do what? Live with someone who hates my family. I don't hate your family. I just don't trust them with our money. It's the same thing. No, it's not, but if you can't see the difference, then maybe you're right. Maybe you can't do this anymore. She moved back to her mother's house the next day. The girls stayed with me during the week and went to Emily's on weekends. It was a miserable arrangement for everyone, but it was better than the constant fighting. I threw myself into work, picking up extra projects, staying late, anything to avoid coming home to an empty house. My boss noticed the extra effort and started giving me more responsibility. It didn't pay more, but it kept me busy. The mortgage company agreed to a payment plan that would get us current over 6 months. It meant living on beans and rice, but it was manageable. I canceled the cable, switched to a cheaper phone plan, and started shopping at discount grocery stores. The girls adapted without complaint, understanding somehow that things were tight. Our former friends remained former. I'd see them at school events or around town, and they'd nod politely, but keep their distance. I was the guy whose wife had asked them for money. I was the guy whose marriage fell apart in public. I was the guy to avoid. But slowly I started building a new life. I joined a different gym, found a different grocery store, made new acquaintances who didn't know about our drama. I wasn't ready for new friends yet, but I was ready to stop hiding. Emily, meanwhile, was still chasing solutions. She got a job at a real estate office, which was good, but she also started attending Jake's investment seminars, which was not. Jake had pivoted from house flipping to cryptocurrency, and Emily was convinced this was finally going to be their big break. The confrontation came at Sophie's school play. Emily and I were sitting together trying to present a united front for our daughter when Tom Morrison approached us during intermission. "Kyle, Emily, how are you doing?" It was the first time he'd spoken to me in months. I could see the calculation behind his eyes. We were in public at a school event, and he couldn't avoid us without being obvious about it. "We're fine, Tom. How are Lisa and the kids?" Good. Listen, I heard Emily's working in real estate now. That's great." Emily smiled. "Thank you. I'm really enjoying it. And Kyle, you should tell Tom about Jake's new venture, the cryptocurrency thing." I felt my stomach drop. "Emily, maybe this isn't the place." "No, it's perfect. Tom, Jake has found this amazing opportunity in digital currency. The returns are incredible." Tom's smile became strained. "Oh, really? Really? He's already made back his initial investment plus 30% profit. And that's just in the first month." I wanted to disappear. Emily was doing it again, trying to rope our friends into Jake's latest scheme, not understanding that she was making everything worse. "That sounds interesting," Tom said. "It is. Jake says if we can get a few more investors together, we could all make serious money. Are you and Lisa interested in hearing more?" Tom looked at me like I was supposed to rescue him. We're pretty committed to our current investments. But this is different. This is cryptocurrency. It's the future." "Emily," I said quietly, "maybe we should talk about this later." "Why?" "Tom's our friend. Friends share opportunities." The silence stretched out painfully. Other parents were starting to notice our conversation. Tom was looking around for an escape route. "Well," Tom said finally, "I should get back to Lisa. Good to see you both." He practically ran away from us. "That was awkward," Emily said. "That was humiliating." "What do you mean?" "Emily, Tom and Lisa are avoiding us because you asked them for money. And just now, you did it again." "I was sharing an opportunity. You were trying to get them involved in Jake's latest scheme." "It's not a scheme. Jake has made real money. Jake says he's made real money. There's a difference." The lights dimmed then, signaling the start of the second act. We sat through the rest of Sophie's play in tense silence, applauding at the right moments, smiling for our daughter, pretending everything was fine, but everything wasn't fine. After the play, I overheard Lisa Morrison talking to another parent. "I feel bad for Kyle," she was saying. "Emily just won't let it go. Did you hear her trying to get Tom involved in some cryptocurrency thing? I heard she asked the Johnsons for money too. And Mike and Sarah. She's asked everyone. It's so uncomfortable." I wanted to defend Emily, but I couldn't. She was making us both look desperate and predatory. She was burning bridges faster than I could build them. That night, after I dropped the girls off at Emily's, I made a decision. I was done being the reasonable one, done being the stable one, done being the guy who quietly endured his wife's financial schemes and his brother-in-law's con games. It was time to fight back. I started with research. Real research, not the fake documents Jake had been showing us. I looked up his previous business ventures, the food truck that was never licensed, the cryptocurrency mining operation that existed only on paper, the consulting company that had no clients and no revenue. Then I dug deeper. Jake had been arrested twice for check fraud, though the charges were dropped. He'd been evicted from 3 apartments in 2 years. He owed money to a dozen different creditors. But the real discovery came when I hacked into his email. I know that sounds bad, but Jake had used our home computer for his business and never bothered to log out. His password was Money123, not exactly Fort Knox security. What I found was a goldmine of evidence. Jake had been running the same investment scam on multiple families. The Austin tech startup, the house flipping, the cryptocurrency, all variations of the same con. He'd collect money from desperate people, use it to pay off previous debts, and keep just enough to maintain his lifestyle. When one scheme collapsed, he'd move on to the next. He had a whole network of marks. Divorced women, struggling families, elderly people looking to supplement their retirement. He'd befriend them, gain their trust, then slowly separate them from their savings. Emily wasn't his sister in this context. She was his primary recruiter, using her social connections to find new victims. The investment seminars she'd been attending weren't education. They were hunting expeditions. The worst part was the messages between Jake and Emily. She knew, maybe not the full extent of his crimes, but she knew he was lying to people. She knew the investments were fake. She knew, and she was helping him anyway because she believed they deserved a cut of the profits. I printed everything. Emails, financial records, victim testimonials. Then I made copies and started planning my revenge. First, I called Tom Morrison. Tom, it's Kyle. I need to talk to you about something important. Kyle, look, if this is about Emily's cryptocurrency thing. It is, but not the way you think. Can you meet me for coffee? I have something to show you. We met at a Starbucks across town, away from our usual haunts. I spread the evidence across our table like a prosecutor making his case. Jesus, Kyle, Tom said after reading through the emails. This is fraud, actual fraud. I know. Emily's involved in this? She's recruiting for him. She's been using our friends as potential marks. Tom was quiet for a long time, processing what he was seeing. What are you going to do? I'm going to stop them. How? By making sure everyone knows what they're really doing. Tom looked uncomfortable. Kyle, I get that you're angry, but this could destroy Emily. She could go to jail. She should go to jail. They both should. What about the girls? That stopped me. Sophie and Jenna didn't deserve to have their mother arrested, their family destroyed, their lives turned upside down. But they also didn't deserve to be raised by criminals. I don't know, I admitted, but I can't let this continue. Tom helped me contact the other families Jake had targeted. Not just our friends, but the other victims I'd found in his emails. One by one, we reached out to them, sharing information, building a case. What we found was heartbreaking. Jake had stolen over $200,000 from 17 different families. Retirement savings, college funds, emergency money, all gone, fed into his network of fake investments and personal expenses. Mrs. Chen, a 70-year-old widow, had given him her late husband's life insurance money. The Garcias had mortgaged their house to invest in his cryptocurrency scheme. A young couple with a special needs child had emptied their son's medical fund. These weren't rich people looking to get richer. These were desperate people looking for hope, and Jake had sold them false dreams while picking their pockets. Emily had helped him find most of them. I wrestled with what to do for weeks. The evidence was clear, the victims were real, but Emily was still my wife and the mother of my children. Turning her in would destroy our family completely. Then Jake made the decision for me. He showed up at my house on a Saturday morning, drunk and belligerent. Kyle, you son of a witch, I know what you're doing. I opened the door, but didn't invite him in. What am I doing, Jake? You're sabotaging me, calling my investors, spreading lies about my business. I'm telling people the truth about your scams. They're not scams, they're investments. Just because you're too stupid to understand them doesn't make them illegal. Show me one investor who's made money, Jake. Just one. It takes time. These are long-term strategies. It's been 3 years since your first investment opportunity. Where are the returns? Jake pushed past me into my living room. He was drunker than I'd realized, stumbling slightly, his words slurred. You think you're so smart, Kyle? You think you're better than me, but you're just a loser with a dead-end job and a wife who can't stand you. Emily left because of you, Jake, because of your schemes and your lies. Emily left because you're boring, because you have no vision, no ambition, because you're everything she settled for instead of everything she wanted. That stung, but I kept my temper. Get out of my house. Or what? You'll push me into another coffee table? Or I'll call the police and have you arrested for trespassing. Jake laughed. The police? You think the police care about your hurt feelings? I think they care about fraud, about elderly mistreatment, about the $200,000 you've stolen from 17 families. Jake's laughter died. You can't prove anything. I can prove everything. I have your emails, your financial records, statements from your victims. I have enough evidence to put you away for 10 years. You're bluffing. I walked to my desk and pulled out a thick folder. Mrs. Chen's life insurance money, $43,000. The Garcia's home equity loan, $68,000. The Andersons' daughter's college fund, $22,000. Should I keep going? Jake's face went pale. How did you... You used my computer, genius, and your password is Money123. Not exactly criminal mastermind material. Jake sat down heavily on my couch. Kyle, you don't understand. I was going to pay everyone back. The cryptocurrency thing is real. I just need more time. You need more victims. There's a difference. I'm not a criminal. I'm an entrepreneur. Sometimes investments don't work out. Sometimes entrepreneurs don't steal money from widows and sick children. Jake looked up at me, and for a moment I saw something like fear in his eyes. What do you want? I want you to confess. I want you to return every penny you've stolen, and I want you to leave my family alone. I can't return money I don't have. Then you're going to jail. Jake stood up, swaying slightly. You turned me in. Emily goes down too. She recruited half those families. She's as guilty as I am. Maybe, but at least my daughters won't grow up thinking crime pays. Your daughters will grow up without a mother. They'll grow up without a criminal for a mother. I can live with that. Jake stared at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. You really hate me, don't you? I don't hate you, Jake. I pity you. You had every advantage in life, and you threw it all away chasing easy money. Easy money. You think this is easy? You think lying to people, pretending to be their friend, taking their money, you think that's easy? I think it's easier than getting a job. Jake left then, but I knew he'd be back. Cornered animals are dangerous, and Jake was definitely cornered. I called Tom and told him what had happened. You need to go to the police, Kyle, now, before Jake does something stupid. I know, I'm just trying to figure out how to protect the girls. The best way to protect them is to make sure their uncle doesn't hurt anyone else. Tom was right. I gathered all my evidence and drove to the police station. Detective Sarah Martinez listened to my story, reviewed the documents, and assured me they'd investigate immediately. This is good work, Mr. Masters. How did you compile all this? I used to do computer forensics before I got into IT management. Old habits. Well, your old habits just saved a lot of people from losing more money. The investigation moved quickly. Jake was arrested 3 days later, charged with multiple counts of fraud and theft. The local news picked up the story, and suddenly everyone knew about the investment seminar scam that had targeted families across the Dallas area. Emily was questioned, but not charged. The district attorney decided she was more victim than accomplice, manipulated by her brother rather than actively participating in his crimes. I wasn't sure I agreed, but I was grateful my daughters wouldn't have to visit their mother in prison. The aftermath was brutal. Emily's real estate career ended before it really began. Nobody wanted to work with the sister of a con man. Our former friends remained former, now viewing us as not just desperate, but actually criminal. The girls had to deal with classmates asking if their uncle was really a thief. But there was also relief. The constant pressure to invest in Jake's schemes was gone. The financial stress was manageable now that we weren't being asked to gamble our way out of debt. The lies and secrets were finally in the open. Emily and I met for coffee a week after Jake's arrest. She looked exhausted, older somehow, like the stress had aged her years in just days. I didn't know, she said, about the other families, the elderly victims. I thought it was just us, just our friends. But you knew the investments were fake. I thought they were optimistic. I didn't think they were criminal. What's the difference? Emily was quiet for a long time. I wanted to believe him, Kyle. I wanted to believe there was some magic solution that would fix everything. There's no magic, Emily. There's just work and time and making smart choices. I know that now. Do you? Because 3 months ago, you were ready to mortgage our house to fund Jake's schemes. I was desperate. We were going to lose everything. We were going to lose everything because you spent money we didn't have on things we didn't need. Emily flinched. I know. I take responsibility for that. Do you? Because I haven't heard you actually apologize yet. I'm sorry, Kyle. I'm sorry I lied about our finances. I'm sorry I asked our friends for money. I'm sorry I trusted Jake over you. It was a start, but it wasn't enough. Trust, once broken, doesn't heal with apologies. What happens now? Emily asked. I don't know. The girls need stability. They need to know their parents can be trusted. Can I be trusted? I looked at my wife across the coffee shop table. She was still beautiful, still the woman I'd fallen in love with 15 years ago. But she was also the woman who'd hidden $15,000 in debt, who'd tried to recruit our friends into her brother's criminal schemes, who'd chosen her family's get-rich-quick dreams over our marriage's financial stability. I don't know, I said honestly. Emily started crying then, quietly, tears streaming down her face. I've ruined everything, haven't I? You made choices. We both made choices. Now we have to live with the consequences. Can we try again? Can we rebuild? Maybe, but it would have to be different. No more secrets, no more schemes, no more choosing your family over our family. Jake is going to prison, Kyle. There won't be any more schemes. There will be other Jakes, other opportunities, other shortcuts. The question is whether you'll choose them over us. Emily wiped her eyes. I won't, I promise. You promised to love, honor, and cherish me too. How did that work out? She didn't have an answer for that. We agreed to try counseling, to see if we could rebuild what we'd broken. But I wasn't optimistic. Some betrayals cut too deep to heal completely. Jake was sentenced to 8 years in prison and ordered to pay restitution to his victims. He'd serve at least 4 years before being eligible for parole. Emily visited him once, then never went back. He's not sorry, she told me. He's angry that he got caught, angry that you turned him in, angry that his business is ruined, but he's not sorry he hurt people. Are you surprised? I guess not. I just hoped. I don't know what I hoped. Our friends remained distant. Some of Jake's victims were people we knew from school events and neighborhood gatherings. They looked at us with suspicion now, wondering if we'd been part of the scam, wondering if we could be trusted. I understood their caution, but it still hurt. We'd been victims too, in our way. But we were also connected to the perpetrator, tainted by association. The girls adapted better than the adults. Kids are resilient, and they were young enough that the social implications didn't affect them as much. They knew Uncle Jake had done something bad and was in jail, but their daily lives remained mostly unchanged. Emily and I started counseling, but it was clear from the first session that we had fundamental differences that went beyond Jake's schemes. Emily still believed in shortcuts, still looked for the easy path, still thought my caution was cowardice. I still believed in hard work and careful planning, still thought her risk-taking was reckless. The counselor helped us communicate better, but she couldn't change our basic personalities. Emily would always be drawn to get-rich-quick schemes. I would always be suspicious of them. She would always think I was holding her back. I would always think she was putting our family at risk. After 6 months of counseling, we agreed to divorce. It was amicable, as these things go. We'd share custody of the girls, split our assets, what little we had left, and try to co-parent effectively. Emily moved back in with her mother, at least temporarily. I kept the house, which was finally current on payments thanks to my extra work and reduced expenses. The girls spent weekdays with me and weekends with Emily, a schedule that worked for everyone. I threw myself into my career, picking up certifications, taking on bigger projects, positioning myself for promotion. The extra income helped, but more importantly, the work gave me purpose and distraction. Emily found a job as a secretary at a law firm. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, and she seemed to appreciate the stability after years of chasing unrealistic dreams. She also started attending Debtors Anonymous meetings, working to understand her relationship with money and risk. Our divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in November, exactly 2 years after Jake had first pitched his Austin tech startup scheme. The irony wasn't lost on me. But the story doesn't end there. 3 months after our divorce was final, I got a call from Detective Martinez. Mr. Masters, I thought you should know your former brother-in-law has been running a new scam from prison. How is that possible? He's been using other inmates to contact his old victims, claiming he's found a way to pay them back if they can just send a little money for legal fees and processing costs. Are people falling for it? Some are. Desperate people want to believe they can recover their losses. What can I do? Nothing official, but you might want to warn the people you know who were victims. I spent the next week calling Jake's former victims, warning them about his new scheme. Most were grateful for the heads up. but a few were angry that I was interfering with their chance to recover their money. Mrs. Chen, the elderly widow, was one of the angry ones. "Mr. Masters, Jake called me himself. He's found a way to get my money back." "Mrs. Chen, Jake is in prison. He can't get anyone's money back. He explained that he's working with lawyers with the government, but he needs a little money up front to process the paperwork." "It's a scam, Mrs. Chen. The same scam he ran before." "You're just trying to keep me from getting my money back because you're angry at him." I tried to explain, but she hung up on me. 2 weeks later, she sent Jake $5,000 for legal fees, money she'd borrowed against her house, money she'd never see again. Some people never learn. But most of Jake's former victims were smarter the second time around. The new scam netted him less than $20,000 before the prison authorities shut it down and added new charges to his sentence. Emily called me when she heard about Jake's latest scheme. "I can't believe he's still doing this," she said. "I can. It's who he is. I feel so stupid, Kyle, for believing him, for defending him, for choosing him over you. We all make mistakes." Some mistakes are bigger than others. I couldn't argue with that. Emily and I gradually rebuilt a friendship of sorts. Not romantic, not intimate, but functional. We could attend the girls' school events together without tension. We could discuss parenting decisions without fighting. We could even laugh occasionally about the absurdity of our situation. She never remarried, never even dated seriously. I think Jake's betrayal had damaged her ability to trust people, especially men who promised easy solutions to complex problems. I dated occasionally, but nothing serious. Trust was an issue for me too, though in a different way. I'd learned that people could lie about fundamental things, could hide debts and schemes and criminal behavior behind smiles and family loyalty. It made me cautious, maybe too cautious. The girls thrived in our new arrangement. They had 2 parents who were no longer fighting, 2 homes where they felt secure, and the knowledge that their family, while broken, was no longer built on lies. Sophie, now 13, was interested in forensic accounting after hearing about how I'd uncovered Jake's crimes. Jenna, 11, wanted to be a police detective. Both were smart, skeptical kids who asked hard questions and didn't accept easy answers. I was proud of them, proud of how they'd handled their parents' divorce and their uncle's crimes. They'd learned early that adults could make terrible decisions, but they'd also learned that consequences mattered, and truth eventually surfaced. Jake served 4 years of his 8-year sentence before being released on parole. I heard through Emily that he'd moved to Arizona and was supposedly working construction. I hoped he'd learned his lesson, but I doubted it. Men like Jake don't change. They just find new victims. I never saw him again, which was fine with me. The real epilogue to this story came 5 years after our divorce. I was at Sophie's high school graduation when Tom Morrison approached me. "Kyle, congratulations. Sophie's quite a young lady." "Thanks, Tom. I'm proud of her. Listen, I owe you an apology for how we handled things back then, for avoiding you and Emily when you needed friends." "You don't owe me anything, Tom. I understand why you did what you did. Still, it wasn't right. We should have been there for you. You were protecting your family. I can't fault you for that." Tom nodded. "For what it's worth, I think you handled everything exactly right. Turning Jake in, protecting the girls, rebuilding your life. It took courage. It took stubbornness. There's a difference." Tom laughed. "Maybe. But sometimes stubbornness is what courage looks like." After the graduation ceremony, Emily and I took the girls out to dinner. It was a family celebration, even if we weren't technically a family anymore. "Dad," Sophie said over dessert, "I've been thinking about Uncle Jake." "What about him? Do you think he ever really believed his own schemes? Or did he always know he was lying?" It was a sophisticated question from a 17-year-old. "I think he started believing his own lies," I said. "I think he convinced himself that the ends justified the means. That if he could just find the right opportunity, he could pay everyone back and prove he wasn't a criminal." "But he was a criminal." "Yes, he was. And Mom helped him." Emily flinched. "Sophie, I made mistakes. I trusted someone I shouldn't have trusted, and I put our family at risk. But I learned from those mistakes. I know, Mom, I'm not judging you. I'm just trying to understand how smart people can make such dumb decisions." "Smart people can rationalize almost anything," I said. "They can convince themselves that black is white, that wrong is right, that stealing is investing. Intelligence doesn't protect you from self-deception." Jenna, now 14, looked up from her ice cream. Is that why you're so suspicious of everything, Dad? Because you don't trust yourself to tell the difference? Another sophisticated question. My daughters were going to be formidable adults. Maybe, I admitted. I learned that people can lie about important things, that families can betray each other, that friends can disappear when you need them most. It made me careful, maybe too careful. But you caught Uncle Jake, Sophie pointed out. Your suspicion saved a lot of people from losing more money. This time. But there's a cost to being suspicious all the time. It makes you lonely. Emily reached across the table and touched my hand. You don't have to be lonely, Kyle. There are people who care about you. I know, I'm working on trusting that. After dinner, we walked to our cars together. Emily hugged me goodbye, something she hadn't done in years. Thank you, she said. For what? For protecting the girls. For doing the right thing even when it was hard. For being the man I should have trusted from the beginning. We both made mistakes, Emily. Some of us made bigger ones. I watched her drive away with Jenna, then got in my own car with Sophie. Dad, Sophie said as we drove home, do you ever regret turning Uncle Jake in? No. Do you think I should? No, but it must have been hard knowing it would hurt Mom. The hardest thing I've ever done, but sometimes protecting the people you love means making decisions they won't understand. Is that why you divorced Mom? To protect us? I thought about that question for a long time. Partly. Your mom and I had fundamental differences about money, about risk, about what was important. Those differences were tearing our family apart. Sometimes divorce is the only way to stop the damage. Do you still love her? I'll always love her. But love isn't always enough to make a marriage work. Sophie nodded like she understood. Though at 17, she couldn't really comprehend the complexities of adult relationships. We drove home in comfortable silence, father and daughter, survivors of a family crisis that had tested everyone's character and revealed everyone's true nature. I'd learned that my wife was capable of deception, that my brother-in-law was a criminal, that my friends were fair-weather companions. But I'd also learned that my daughters were resilient, that I was stronger than I'd thought, and that sometimes doing the right thing means accepting the consequences of other people's bad choices. Jake had spent 5 years in prison and would spend the rest of his life as a convicted felon. Emily had lost her marriage, her social circle, and her financial security. I'd lost my wife and many of my friends, but I'd kept my integrity and my daughter's respect. In the end, that seemed like a fair trade. As we pulled into our driveway, Sophie said, Dad, I'm proud of you. For what? For being boring, for being careful, for being the kind of man who chooses his family over easy money. I laughed. I never thought boring would be a compliment. It is when the alternative is Uncle Jake. We sat in the car for a moment, looking at our house. It wasn't much, a modest 3-bedroom in a middle-class neighborhood, but it was ours, bought with honest money and maintained through honest work. Come on, I said, let's go home. And we did, father and daughter, walking toward our front door together, leaving the past behind us where it belonged.